Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the inaugural Tech Connect Thursday powered by WeTech Alliance in partnership with Invest WindsorEssex, FedDev Ontario, St. Clair College, the University of Windsor, and Workforce WindsorEssex. First, let me introduce myself. My name's Adam Fry from WeTech Alliance, and I'll be responsible for moderating today's session. I couldn't be more excited to get to the talk to the team at Rocket Innovation Studio about what it's like working in Windsor-Essex's tech sector. So what is Tech Connect Thursday? Well, Tech Connect Thursday is an opportunity for those curious about working in tech or those already working in tech and looking to make connections and learn about exciting career opportunities and industry sector insights, trends and initiatives happening within our region and beyond. Our goal is for you to meet some of the fastest growing tech and innovation companies, people, and the organizations leading the way across the entire tech industry. Ultimately, we hope Tech Connect Thursdays helps you plug into the Windsor-Essex tech scene. So to be considerate and accommodating to everybody attending today from across the region, we're doing things a little bit differently in this meetup by leveraging Zoom webinar. You may not be able to see all the attendees, but you will have ample opportunity to engage with our guests during the Q&A session. Just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. If you do want to join the conversation, the lovely Emily is behind the scenes with us today. Feel free to use the chat feature located right at the bottom of the window to engage with the session attendees. Have any questions for our guests? You may submit any questions at any time throughout the session using that Q&A box located at the bottom of the display window. And you can also upvote the questions you want answered. Should you experience any technical difficulties, as I said, please send a message to us. We do have Emily here to help you out. Finally, this presentation is being recorded. A video file, audio file, and relevant links will be available on WeTech Alliance's YouTube channel and included in tomorrow's attendee follow-up email. So we're also looking at, we are also streaming this session live on Facebook Alliance or WeTech Alliance's Facebook page. So if you'd like more information or want to learn more about Rocket Innovation Studio, you can visit their website at www.rocketinnovationstudios.ca. And now I'm pleased to introduce our guests, Jason Coons and Greg Presland. Awesome. Welcome, Greg.
Thank you.
Excellent. So Greg is a team leader at Rocket Innovation Studio who leads a software development team. In the past, he's worked as a full stack senior software developer in the Windsor-Essex region for several systems integrators and automation solution companies. And Jason Coons has worked at Rocket Innovation Studio since 2019, starting as a senior developer and moving into a team lead position. Before that, he has worked in the Windsor region for over 20 years doing industrial automation, product management, and part management software. Welcome, both of you. Thanks so much for coming today. Thanks for being a part of this.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. Thanks for having us.
No problem. So, Greg, I want to kind of kick this off. Can you tell us about Rocket Innovation Studios? How does it differ a little bit from Rocket Mortgage? Just tell us sort of about this, about the whole industry and what we're working on here.
Okay, yeah. So Rocket Innovation Studio is a professional services company for rocket companies. Rocket Companies is publicly traded, and they are basically a basket of companies, of rocket companies and others. So if you were to look at rocket companies, probably the biggest one you'd recognize in there is Rocket Mortgage that you just mentioned, formerly Quicken Loans in the United States. So we provide professional services to them. Big part of what we do, us being on the development side of that, we provide development services. So we'll come in with a team, bring a team of software developers and help kick off new projects or wrap up existing projects. But we also do HR side as well. So there's an HR kind of branch element there where we service basically the Canadian side and some of the Canadian companies with those.
That's awesome, Greg. So you're almost like an internal agency for the rocket companies, specifically on the tech development side. So you would actually get to work on all kinds of different projects under that portfolio. And correct me if I'm wrong, but there's almost 100 companies, 100 plus companies under that rocket portfolio at this point.
Under Rocket itself, yeah, they have ties to over 100 companies. Yeah, Rocket Companies is sort of like a more select group of those that they've carved out. So the pool is a little bit smaller there, but yeah, no, we get to work with a whole bunch of different companies, different projects, always stays fresh and new and innovative.
That's amazing. And Jason, I'm hoping maybe you can sort of kick off this dialogue a little bit by talking about your journey in getting to Rocket Innovation Studios and what it's been like to work there for the last little while.
Yeah, sure. So I started off in software in the Windsor region. I started doing industrial software coding integrations with PLCs, robots. Interesting project we did was an early integration of a vision system and robotics to move and locate and pick out parts out of a bin. That was one of the earliest such integrations in North America. Then I moved to a company over in Dearborn that did consulting for Ford, and we were writing product management software, primarily dealing with Ford's global product management system, trying to get those times for automotive development down from like 4 or 5 years down to a shorter time frame. And after that, I moved to a project called Parts Hub. That was something that we did that had guided navigation, similar to like you might see on a Best Buy site or something like that, to narrow down a list of parts for selected prototype vehicles. Then after that, I got back into the Windsor area, went back into industrial software for a little while, did a smart assembly line integration for Pratt & Whitney Canada, amongst other projects. And then I landed at Rocket Innovation Studio in 2019, and I've been there ever since, and it's been a great ride.
Amazing. And Greg, how about yourself? What's your journey to get to Rocket?
My journey leading to Rocket, basically working in manufacturing companies here in Windsor-Essex. So starting there, writing and designing software for manufacturing lines. Doing that for several years, again, moving into those system integration companies where continue to work with manufacturing, mostly automotive, but some aerospace, designing and writing software that basically solves solutions, solves problems, right? Bringing solutions to the manufacturing space, writing custom software. And then, yeah, Rocket basically a couple of years ago took the enter into the Windsor region. It was an exciting opportunity, and again, kind of bringing that opportunity for me to be able to help build new software to solve business problems.
I think that's really great. Like, it's a really cool through line that you both have in your careers starting out in Windsor-Essex. I think there's almost this underground tech scene in manufacturing, right? It's, we've always thought about it as like automotive assembly, and we've got all these different things going on, but that transition has happened, and it's happened so quickly over the last couple of years that you're looking at it now as those jobs are tech jobs, right? Like, both of you have had this. You came right into Rocket Innovation Studios by starting in that manufacturing sector and sort of growing, it sounds like, that element of your career. Is that sort of something that makes sense? Like, is that sort of the case you find as well?
Yeah, I mean, I'll speak for, what I'm used to, but yeah, I mean, everything is software, like behind the scenes manufacturing line software. The business needs to use reporting software. They need analytic data collection software. And then you look at what we're building now. I mean, you look at vehicles now, they're more and more software. So
Yeah.
software is always there. It's behind the scenes, and it continues to grow.
And of course, in Windsor-Essex, manufacturing has always been kind of a little bit of a natural place to be as well. Lots of cool things happening here with tech and manufacturing. So yeah.
Yeah, it makes good sense. So let's shift gears just a little bit, because I do want to give you some time to brag about Rocket Innovation Studios a little bit. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions here. I want to get a sense of sort of what it's like to be at Rocket and sort of what that culture and company looks like. So if I suppose let's throw this one over to Greg. If you could define your company's culture in 3 or so words, what would that look like to you?
I would go with open, thoughtful, and fun, which I can elaborate on them if you wish.
Yeah, let's dive in a little bit on it.
Okay, so yeah, open. I mean, not just open in terms of open office, open, etc., but basically, really, companies sharing kind of the vision, the mission, the strategy, the game plan, being really open, transparent with all of everybody in the company. Everybody basically has a awareness of what's going on. Thoughtful, absolutely. I've never worked at a company that's been so thoughtful and caring for their team members for both their happiness, their well-being, the gifts we get, the fun events and time we get to spend together. Really, really progressive office environment there, which kind of leads into fun. So, with the company being thoughtful, looking after the team members, we do have a lot of fun as well. And that can be team events when we're in the office, all the amenities. So I think, yeah, those would be my 3.
That's awesome. Jason, I see you nodding along there. Anything to add along those lines?
Yeah, I mean, I came up with a couple here. And one was maybe live the ISMs, which is we'll talk about a little bit later, and the really kind of like kind of key sayings and values that we live by. And then the other one I would say is maybe just like love your people. And they're very employee or team member focused at Rocket Innovation Studio. Our team members deliver everything. Without them, nothing gets produced. And so there's a big focus on trying to make their experience as good as possible.
That's awesome. It's such an important focus these days, especially with the opportunity now with remote work and with folks being able to work all over the world on really interesting and unique projects. Being able to be an employee-centric organization is actually a really big value add, I imagine. So that's critical. So I want to take a second and just think through, like, what is a typical day like at Rocket Innovation Studio? This is probably a lot different than what we're used to seeing all over the place here in Windsor-Essex, like you said, in those manufacturing sort of industries or anything like that. So what does a typical day at Rocket look like? And I'll start with Jason. How about yourself?
Well, I could walk you through my day a little bit. Our team works 9 to 5 essentially. So for me, getting in at 9, set up the day ahead, start thinking about the things that I have coming up. 9:15, we'll do a team stand-up. So we do safe, agile practices. Daily stand-up is an important part of us communicating and understanding where we are in our development process. We'll find out what the team's doing, any blockers, maybe share any wins or progress for the team. Then at 9:30, I actually have what we call a train level stand-up. And so that's maybe one extra level up where we talk about the team's progress. We talk about dependencies between our teams on the train. Then 9:45 to noon, I'd say lots of meetings. I'll have leader syncs, one-on-ones with my team members. There'll be planning sessions, just a lot of coordination, really. Look at maybe any special projects or reviews. Noon is usually lunchtime for us. I'll take it around 30 minutes, prepare a little bit for the afternoon. And then 1 to 5 as a leader, more meetings, oftentimes agile ceremonies. Certainly on Friday, we'll have our retrospective. We'll have a discussion over things we learned tech-wise within the team, and just coordinate across teams and look at the next day.
That's amazing. And Greg, any sort of insight to lend or anything sort of that might look different from a different perspective?
Yeah, I mean, kick it off. So it depends on the day of the week. So we do a little bit of hybrid. So about 2 days a week, most team members are going into the office. So if you're working from home, it's a little bit different. If you're going into the office, well, usually a lot of folks are kind of doing a little bit of the water cooler, getting their coffee, getting some of all the fancy drinks that we have available, and kind of getting ready to kick off the day. Yeah, I mean, if you're a team leader like myself, a lot more meetings than maybe some of the other folks. So trying to protect my team members from meeting overload. But yeah, stand up in the morning, progress updates for myself. Bi-weekly we do planning, we do retrospectives where we look at the work we're doing, and trying to provide a good chunk of runway for the developers to focus on doing software development that they love.
That's amazing. So let's switch gears a little bit into what a lot of folks are probably joining the webinar for today, which is what roles are you currently hiring for? Let's start talk a little bit about hiring at Rocket and what that looks like. Let's start with some of the roles, and then we can kind of get into what that interview process looks like, what it's like to kind of go through those hurdles and go from there. So perhaps if either one of you want to kind of jump in on that, what are you hiring for right now?
Well, I can jump in here since I'm So you check out myrocketcareer.com. So that's where we actually put all of our job postings. If you were to go to our website, it would link you to myrocketcareer.com. You would search, you'd filter for Rocket Innovation Studio here in Windsor. So what jobs are we hiring for right now? What do we have available? Well, we kind of do it in batches. So you'll basically see us do batches. We just kind of went through a big batch where we brought in a whole bunch of new people here. So we kind of settled down a little bit and do new batches again, but we're typically hiring, always looking for talented software developers. So those are software developers who are doing potentially C# on the back end or Node.js on the back end, and Angular or React on the front end. So that's a big chunk of basically what we're looking for from the software development side.
That makes sense. Anything
we
to
do
add?
Yeah, we have other roles as well. So I mean, we're looking for talented folks in the data science space. We look for product owners and various other folks from various sides. So I would say check it out. But yeah, always looking for talented, passionate, motivated folks who are in love with the technology that they use.
That makes good sense. And so when you're looking at that, so you go to myrocketcareers.com, you start to take a look, you filter through for Rocket Innovation Studios, we apply. Let's say you find a rock star. You're absolutely excited about this person. They're coming in. Walk me through the interview process. What is it our folks here can expect once they start to formally get into that process, into that pipeline?
Yeah, I can continue with that. So basically you start off talking with a recruiter, right? And you're just going to have a high level conversation. The recruiter is going to let you know about the position, the company, answer any high level questions you might have, and making sure that it's the right fit for both of you as well, right? Making sure that expectations are kind of aligned between both of you. If everything looks good, basically resume comes over to us. We set up a phone interview where we do a little intro. We go through some technical questions, just to make sure that maybe you are familiar with the technologies and what we're looking for. And then any questions you might have for us. That's interview number one. If we continue from there, then we go into something that we call a pod and a face-to-face. So that pod is basically a technical challenge where we spend roughly an hour or so going through and basically demonstrating, doing some kind of pair programming where you're going to write some code in front of us, solve a challenge, and we'll do it together and see how you use technology and write code to solve problems. That face-to-face is behavioral questions, right? So they're non-technical, they're just more so kind of general behavioral questions. And then the floor is yours for the end for any questions you might have. And then after that, we'll get together, we'll make a decision, and the recruiter will reach out to you to let you know about potential next steps or not.
Awesome. And so Jason, for yourself as a team lead, like what is it you're really looking for in these new hires? Like how can someone really stand out to you if you're sort of hiring for your team?
So, I mean, I think the first thing that we look for is obviously we look for some of those technical skills, really like the basics, right? Like if you're coming in as a software developer, are you familiar with OOP? Do you know solid principles, those sorts of things? And that's really kind of like, I think, mostly established in the phone interview. And then going on to the pod, how is your communication, right? Like we're very, very communicative, very collaborative type of team. So I want team members to be sharing what they're learning. I want them to ask questions. I don't want them to sit there and be stuck for too long before reaching out for help, right? We support each other on the team, and so that's a really important part of it. So somebody that's kind of communicative like that, somebody that's passionate about software is always great as well. And those are, I think, the key things that I would be looking for.
That makes sense. And so on the flip side of that, any advice for this? We get this all the time at WeTech from students looking to collide with new tech companies. What should we not be doing during this interview process? Sort of on that flip side of what you're looking for, what are some of those red flags that you're, as a team leader, where you're like, whoa, this is not really what we're looking for?
I think some things that we look for is maybe like spending too long without maybe reaching out, asking questions, those sorts of things. Again, we're always looking for people to kind of communicate, share what they're doing within the pod scenario, and help us understand how you're thinking about the problem. It's maybe even more important than actually solving the problem. It's just sharing how you're thinking, and so that's important. I think in terms of the technical questions, if you don't know the answer to a question, it's okay to share that. We ask a lot of technical questions in varying levels of difficulty. Oftentimes we're just trying to find out where you might be in terms of like your knowledge, right? So as somebody with more experience, we would expect to maybe know a little bit more. Somebody that's just coming in would be a little less knowledgeable. So it's okay to say like, I don't know. It's also okay to say like, I think it might be this, and you know, try and share what your best answer is.
That's awesome. Anything to add on there, Greg, in any of those two questions?
Yeah, I think you covered it, but yeah, passion, motivation is obviously something we're looking for. That great attitude, great communication, right? You're going to be working with others, and we have a lot of other talented, friendly folks. Obviously, from the technical side, right, being able to write code and not just any code, but looking for that quality code, right, clean code, code that's well written and readable and maintainable. What you don't want to do, again, I think Jason covered a lot of those, but you know, not lying, making up answers if you don't know them. It's okay to not know them. In fact, you know, our questions go from easier to harder, and they get pretty hard. And I wouldn't expect anybody to be able to answer every single one of these questions. So I'm going to keep pushing you until I find where kind of the edges. And yeah, so just being honest and truthful. There are no fake answers. And from the pod perspective as well, I just throw in there like potentially not ignoring guidance, right? Like we want to see you do well. You know, we understand everybody doesn't know everything about everything. So you might get stuck, or you might be a little bit nervous. That's fine. We'll throw some hints at you, right? We might throw a little hints, little guidance. So pick up on that. Are you receptive to that feedback? Sometimes you can get a little too stuck and you want to do the thing your way, or you're stuck on your solution. Yeah, so be open to kind of feedback, and we understand that we are given hints sometimes. So, and obviously there's all the standard stuff about, not showing up late and things like that.
Yeah.
That definitely helps, but having questions as well for us in the end, right? Showing an interest in the company that you might be working for is another great thing to have.
I think that makes great sense. And I think along this through line, I want to ask a really specific question for both of you, which is around if you're trying to get into tech. Let's say like maybe you are in this manufacturing world and you want to get more into the big tech world, or I want to join a Rocket Innovation Studios, whether it's outside of school, whether I'm working on my own side hustle, something along those lines. I want to start to get into tech. Where are really good starting points? Like, where's a really good, like, what should I be thinking about? What are good starting points? Like, if I'm looking to get a career in technology, what should I be looking at doing?
Yeah, well, I can jump in. I mean, school is obviously a great start, but not everybody has that opportunity or necessarily is the right path. So, but school is one, and having probably hobby projects. I mean, that was a huge thing that I think, at least personally, helped accelerate my growth, right? If you have some hobby projects that you can work on, you can show off, and you can demonstrate that talent, that's going to help you grow with hands-on. And that's also going to give something, maybe if you don't have any prior work experience, to help showcase to anybody who might be interviewing, showing off a little bit of a portfolio of what you've done, or what you've built, right? And that also demonstrates kind of that passion and motivation there. So obviously, right, you're going to have to start off most likely, something smaller. But going from there and continuously building and working on your skill set, and getting that experience, and building out again, potentially portfolio. Those are all great things that are going to help as you advance up to
It's almost like, start by doing, like, just jump in,
start by
start
doing.
by
Yeah.
like acting, right? Like you
Yeah.
can only learn so much, I suppose, in this particular area. It's like, get in, start doing, get your hands dirty, see what you're good at, sort of thing.
Right. If you're competing with others to try to get a place at a company for technology, and you show up and maybe you've read the textbook or something, but you've never bothered to build anything, versus somebody else who's maybe, been tinkering and been building things. Obviously, the person who has that hands-on experience and has gained that knowledge, that hands-on, is probably going to be looking a little bit better in that position.
Awesome. Jason, any other thoughts on that?
I think that was really well said. And to me, it's really comes down to just write some code, right?
Yeah.
Like try
Yeah.
do your own projects, participate in some other projects, try and master the basics, and you'll be well positioned to go out and start talking to companies about a tech role.
Yeah, that makes good sense. Actually, along this question line, we did have a question in the Q&A that I think is sort of along this. What advice would you give to soon-to-be grads on how to practice and prepare for these technical interviews? And thank you so much, Alina, for posting the question.
Yeah, what can you do to prepare for these questions? Yeah, I mean, really just going through, and sometimes it's just kind of reading the fundamentals of software development, like being familiar with those big words that you see all the time, like the solid principles, and just getting familiar with the language. Like we don't try to use too many tricky questions. At least the way we do them, we kind of split the questions half and half, where half are more theoretical, right? Things like solid and those other principles of writing good software, and the other half are a little more pragmatic. They're actually like basic things of the programming language, like right, knowing kind of those syntax words and things like that, or how to do things. So half of those questions you'll get just by being familiar with the code and how to write code, and the other half just come from reading guides and such, or a textbook or what have you on good software development practices, principles. Yeah, that you might even find, watching YouTube and stuff like that. So
makes good sense. Yeah, Jason, anything to add there for a student looking to prep for some of these technical interviews?
I think Greg really covered it, right? Like it's all about just kind of knowing the tool that you're working with and the language that you're working with, and just trying to be prepared in that way.
Yeah, that makes good sense. So, Jason, I want to call something forward that you talked about a little bit earlier on that we were going to come back to, and this is more about Rocket Innovation Studios and your ISMs. Can you sort of like open up a little bit about that? Like, what are some of these Rocket ISMs that you've got for the company?
So there's actually 20 of them, and
Wow.
the FOC or the rocket companies produce actually a book of ISMs. And I actually have a printout of it on my office wall. I can share some of them, and certainly some of my favorite ones. There's ones like always raising our level of awareness. Let's see, Greg has
Looks
a
like
copy.
Greg's got one too.
Yeah.
Greg's got a copy of the ISMs.
Always raising our level of awareness, which is really about communication and making sure everybody else is aware of what's happening. Stuff like obsessed with finding a better way. How can we automate a process? How can we make a process that we're currently doing better? Yes before no. It's all about taking a chance and taking a plunge and taking on something that we're not maybe sure of, which leads into maybe another ism, we'll figure it out, which is all about like knowing that we won't always have the answers up front. We'll have to jump in, we'll have to learn things, and we'll have things to figure out along the way. Another one, I'll just share maybe just a couple more, but we are the they, which is all about the fact that we're one team trying to deliver for our clients, right? And so like helping out wherever we can and understanding that we're all part of like this bigger mission. And then you know, maybe the last one I'll share is you'll see it when you believe it, which is all about thinking big and dreaming big.
That's amazing. That's so great. And Greg, any others that on top of that you'd like to add?
The ones like I mean, they're all great and they're all important. Maybe some of the ones that stick out for me. The packaging is just as important as the contents. That one has got to be my favorite, simply because I feel like it's the one that I'm most passionate about, and maybe is one that's forgotten by others. Maybe something to do with me being a bit of a perfectionist, but always thinking about, you know, it's more than just here's something that works or here's something that gets the job done. I like that extra packaging that you actually see more and more now with companies when they build things. It's the feeling as well, right? It's not just the device or the thing. It's the whole experience about that. Obsessed with finding a better way. Again, maybe another runner-up, another one of my favorites before we added the previous one. That's just something, again, that my entire career has been about, like finding better ways of doing things, improving things. It's all about kind of advancing humanity, is just keep improving on things, keep making things better, keep finding new solutions, bigger, better solutions.
That's awesome. That's absolutely awesome. And so the final sort of, I got a couple more questions for you before we jump right into the chat. So there's a couple through lines that I still want to talk about with Rocket Innovation Center. So, you know, we've seen a lot of these billboards and marketing campaigns that are out there now touting Windsor as the next big tech hub. So why do you think Rocket Innovation Studios chose Windsor? And now you're close to 3 years in. So like, what sort of successes are you seeing? I could pass that to either or.
I can speak that to a little bit. We've always had a tech community here in Windsor, and obviously lots of people that have traditionally crossed the border and worked in the US, myself included. I did that for a dozen years or so. And now we have the ability to have some of those individuals work back here in Canada, and it's been great. There's always been a good, like I said, there's always been a good tech community here. So I think that our partners over in the US realized that, and you know, when they started Rocket Innovation Studio, the whole idea initially was to maybe help some team members that were having trouble crossing the border, but it actually turned into much more than that, where now there's just a recognition that we have really great talent over here in Windsor and in Canada in general for IT, and the ability to provide that expertise to our partners over in the US.
Yeah, that's really great. That's a really great answer, Jason. Any thoughts on top of that, Greg?
Yeah, the border crossing was obviously a big one because Rocket Mortgage had a lot of Canadians that were crossing the border every day to work there. But we're strategically right across from Detroit. Detroit is basically the headquarters of Rocket itself. What better place than right across to have your headquarters in Canada than in Windsor, right across the border? Strategically, we're right next to the University of Windsor, so a huge amount of talent comes out of there that we'd hopefully be able to help bring right into Rocket. And in a lot of ways, you know, seeing the parallels of maybe Detroit and Windsor. Detroit had a little bit of a snag, you know, decades ago And Rocket's really been revitalizing all that, bringing a lot of energy and growing the city, growing the community. And from seeing and hearing a little bit, Windsor may be experiencing a little bit of that, where there's a lot more we can bring and a lot more we can do. And it's just a great place that Rocket can come in and help grow it with, their university and all the other businesses here to make Windsor bigger and better.
That's amazing. And I think that's a really great through line. I'd love to ask one more question on that, which is around, you very clearly Rocket is a very community oriented organization. Like you can just tell, like this is what Dan Gilbert's all about, like transforming these cities, making sure these things are happening. So, when you talk about community impact over here in Windsor, tell us a little bit about that engagement with the local community. What does that look like so far? Any thoughts on that moving forward? And if not, that's totally okay. I just sort of want to get your thoughts on that. And Jason, I don't know if you've got some just to kick us off.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been great because Rocket Innovation Studio and the rest of our US partners, I think there's always been a desire there to be a good community member. And so some things that we have in place in order to be able to facilitate that is we have volunteer time for our team members so that they can participate in community initiatives that they're passionate about. And then we've done initiatives like helping United Way here in Windsor-Essex with an anti-poverty simulation that we did for them called Living in My Shoes. And that was a big initiative on that we had within Rocket Innovation Studio. It's been a great thing for the United Way as well.
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, we've been working with the university as well, St. Clair College. Yeah, the United Way has been a big one. Actually, we just did a local cleanup for West Windsor actually yesterday, where we had a huge turnout from Rocket, along with many other companies, helping to literally pick up trash and clean up the communities there on that side. Jason mentioned a bunch, but yeah, we've continued to be engaged in basically everything we can that we can get a part of to help support Windsor.
That's really amazing.
Windsor-Essex.
Yeah, and I can just see the impact you're making, even by having the Rocket Innovation Studios right downtown in the core. It's a really amazing spot, and it's really great to see you guys sort of help.
I think our team members have helped stimulate a lot of the local restaurants at lunchtime.
Yeah, there's no doubt, which is really, really great for us down there. So, now let's move into the Q&A portion of the event. So Greg and Jason are going to answer some questions from the audience. So just a quick reminder, you can post your questions using the Q&A box, and we're going to do our best to get to all of them today if we can. So you can also upvote questions if you really want to hear the answers to those. So I'm going to just start with from Dev Kumar. He said, is there any opportunities for data analyst or business analyst currently? So are those two positions that you're really looking for, and is there a fit there with the Rocket Innovation Studios?
We do have data analysts. Again, whether they're up there on the website right now would need to check, but yeah, we do routinely have data analysts. Business analysts would have to double check that one. Maybe not traditionally. And then the DBA at database administrators, I think is what he's looking for with DBA. No, we haven't had anything up for that specifically. We've mostly been focused on, when it comes to developers, full stack developers. We do have some developers that are centered on certain things like, we'll say Salesforce, for example, and what have you. But usually we're looking for kind of full stack because of the nature of our work, right? We're working with different clients, different technologies. We're moving around a lot. So we want people who are able to kind of pick up front end, back end, right? People who maybe get bored is a perfect place to be, because you're going to be switching it up, right? Every so often to get new challenges. So
what a strategic advantage when recruiting. Like I just can't help but think, like, if you're somebody in tech looking to work on a whole bunch of really interesting problems, like what a great spot to land and to get to actually dig into some of these high growth companies and help them with their technologies. Yeah, amazing. Really cool. So Sebastian asks, how is it different from working in IT right here in Windsor versus big cities? He lists Toronto and Vancouver, but you've both been over in Detroit. You both know what that's sort of like. So maybe I'll start with Jason, throw it to you, and then we can have Greg sort of follow up.
Well, I could start out by saying I live in Amherstburg and I have the longest commute of any of my team members, and it's half an hour. So, in those cities, oftentimes getting to your workplace can be lengthy, right? So living in a smaller community, it has that advantage. I would say that it's got like a nice cozy vibe in a lot of ways. I feel like in the office, very, very cohesive group. And for me, like But in a technical sense, like there's no difference to me working in IT here in Windsor versus Toronto or Vancouver. We're using we're using all the latest technologies, AWS, Kubernetes, and we have those advantages, but at the same time, the advantage of living in a smaller place where it's maybe easier to get around and afford a home and those sorts of things.
Amazing. Yeah, Greg, anything to add there?
No, I think Jason covered it. I mean, really, it's yeah, I mean, technology wise, what the work we're doing, the technology we're using, I don't think you're going to find a difference. That process, all of that, that's really the same. It's just maybe your commute is 15 minutes instead of an hour if you're actually going into the office, and less gridlock and all of those other things. But yeah, I mean, just downtown Windsor versus downtown Toronto, it's really just the population difference and maybe the height of the buildings. So yeah, we're on the second floor, not the 50th floor. So.
Yeah, exactly. And I imagine too, like the culture you're trying to build down there, and we've had the privilege of getting to actually go for a tour. You're still going to be surrounded by incredible human beings all the time working on really interesting problems. So you're not losing the network effect so much either, especially now that you've got a little bit of remote. So I think that that's something too that sort of evens the playing field for spaces like Windsor versus like a Toronto or a Vancouver. Yeah. Amit asks, what's the workforce size in Windsor area for Rocket Innovation Studios? And do you hire experienced professionals as well as folks just starting out?
Yeah, we absolutely hire folks who are experienced and absolutely. I was just pulling up here. Yeah, it looks like we're floating between 90 and 100. We've been kind of fluctuating around that range here, but right now, yeah, Rocket Innovation Studios about 90 and 100.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. That's perfect. And then Nia asks, what if the software engineer had language specific experiences like Java? Do you consider them for other requirements? So if you have the need for C?
Well, yeah, so maybe your technology stack that you have experience with differs. That's not a deal breaker by any means. Obviously, when we do some of our technical challenges, we try to focus more on languages that we're going to use here. Depending on experience, right? If you've been writing Java for 15 years and you've never touched any of our languages, that's maybe a little bit tougher, especially if you want like a senior role or something like that and you've never touched the, what we work with. But if you're looking for a more entry level role, I think that's pretty, we can work with that. And that's really around like, that's where we're going to see more emphasis on writing clean code regardless of the language, right? That passion, that motivation, that willingness to learn. Willingness to learn is a really big one in more entry level positions, because if you're motivated and you want to learn and you're picking things up, then that's fantastic. We put the investment into our newer folks, and actually we're proving that right now with the new program where we are, as we bring folks in, helping to ramp them up and get them familiar with our technologies and our tools. So yeah, if you don't know the languages,
right, in early career job training with these new folks, if I'm not mistaken, this is one of the benefits of working at Rocket is they do spend a significant amount of money on you early on in your career.
100%. So yeah, I mean, obviously you don't want to come in with zero, so it doesn't hurt to maybe spend a few weeks trying to pick up and learn little bits of the language and such. But it's not a deal breaker, and yeah, just bring that passion, that motivation, that willingness to learn, and we'll level you up.
Yeah, and you find the similar thing with your teams too, Jason, on the front line?
Yeah. Essentially what Greg said is really accurate. We're open to all sorts of people coming in with different types of experience, and especially in entry level, I think as long as you have the fundamentals, we can get you where you need to go.
Yeah, that makes good sense. So I just want to start by saying, thanking everybody for the chat, and Greg and Jason. One final question for you here before we wrap up our session today. And I really think that folks are really going to learn a lot from this. Let's start with Greg and we'll go to Jason. But what do you love most about working at Rocket?
I would go with, it's kind of the culture and the people. I mean, maybe that's two answers, but I'm blending them together here.
That's okay.
I really love working with all of our talented people. Like, we really do pick up some great talent that we have in this region. Absolutely. Working with a fantastic team where everybody's motivated, everybody's on the same page, everybody's, friendly, happy working together. we understand the vision, we understand the mission, we know what we're trying to do, and we're doing it together, and we're having a great time doing it. So just really working with talented, passionate, motivated people in the company culture that we have.
Absolutely critical. Yeah. And Jason, how about yourself?
Yeah, I love that too. And the thing I think is really nice about RIS is, in addition to using like the latest technologies, I feel like we strive to bring in the best technologies, processes, and practices out there in the IT industry. And I feel as an organization, the RIS cares about and invests in their people, and that's been important to me. They encourage you to take chances, make mistakes, and learn. So just a very, I guess, I don't know. It's just a great place to work for me.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed my 3 years.
That's really amazing. I love that. And it's cool that it's sort of ethereal. Like it's almost like the culture itself is great. The work is excellent. And then it's just the community that's come together around it, it has been really great. I know from the WeTech Alliance side, from day one, seeing that building open up and then having everyone start to fill it and all the energy around it, it's been really cool to follow that journey over the last couple of years. And so I just want to send another big thank you to Greg and Jason and Rocket Innovation Studio for sharing all of your insights today and any advice to the students and professionals from across our region. It was an absolute pleasure to have you on with us virtually today. So thank you so much. Now, before we say goodbye, we do have 3 important announcements to make. Number 1, registration is now open for our next Tech Connect Thursday on November 3rd at 12 p.m. And we're going to be having a conversation with Centerline Windsor Limited, which is going to be a wonderful conversation about technology in Windsor-Essex. And so number 2, you're going to get a follow-up email from us tomorrow with a video link and any resources discussed in today's session. And then number 3, your feedback's obviously incredibly important to us. Emily's going to take a quick moment to pop this poll up. So if you don't mind, please just like really quickly fill out that poll for us. And then the final thing for today, we do have to keep you engaged with our regional tech community. We've compiled a list of coming up in Windsor-Essex Tech and beyond. So we have a women-driven mobility breakfast on October 25th. Please check that out. Emerging Technologies Conference is on October 26th. An amazing conference here in Windsor-Essex. Please go check that out. And then the Windsor-Essex Dev Fest is happening November 12th. So this is going to conclude Tech Connect Thursday. Thank you all for attending, and we hope you all learned and enjoyed today's session. And a big thank you to Emily for helping us out with the event production today. So until next time, stay plugged into the regional tech scene.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.